Today we're going to be replacing ignition coil packs and spark plugs while we're at it. So stay tuned. If you're interested in just changing spark plugs, we're going to go over that. These have to come out anyways. If you're interested in learning how to change your coil packs because one went out on you, we're going to cover that. Today, skip ahead if you just want to see it, but I'm going to drop a little knowledge on you. So today we're replacing this because I actually lost one of these on a trip to Colorado. A 2-day trip, and I started getting a miss in my GX. And so I looked it up and looked at the codes, and sure enough, cylinder 8 was misfiring. There's really only 3 reasons that your cylinder is going to misfire. It's either got no spark, which was unlikely. I just replaced these less than 2 years ago. No fuel, again, kind of unlikely, and certainly wouldn't be intermittent if we had a bad fuel injector. That would just start being bad right away. But if you've got an intermittent miss that starts getting worse over time, here's your culprit. It's this spark ignition coil. So what these do, these take the place of the original distributor cap and distributor spark plug wires, and instead they individually create very high voltage and fire the spark plug, and they fit on the end of the spark plug down inside of the valve cover gasket where it goes into the cylinder head. There's one per cylinder, so on a V8 like the GX, we're going to have 8 of these. So the good news is they're quite easy to change if you know what you're doing and you know the symptoms. I'm going to also touch on how I was able to quickly diagnose that. I've got that cheap little Bluetooth scanner that's like $10 on Amazon. Thankfully I had that with me, and it showed me the code, which is important because it showed me which cylinder, so I knew right away which one to replace without guessing. So without further ado, let's get to it. First things first, it's a nice cool morning here in August in Houston, right? But what's important is that I've let my engine cool down all night. If you're gonna change your spark plugs, it's gotta be a cool, cold engine. You cannot do it on a hot engine and get the torques right, and you're gonna end up damaging your engine. You can swap out your ignition coils while it's hot. You'll burn your fingers, but it can be done. I did it. But if you're gonna do spark plugs, you need to set your car up overnight, let it be nice and cool, come out in the morning and do them in the morning. Tools for today's job are relatively simple, except for maybe the torque wrench, which I highly recommend if you have not done this before. And if you're watching a video on how to do spark plugs, you probably need a torque wrench. We're gonna want that when we tighten down our spark plugs to make sure you don't over tighten them and break the spark plug or crack it in the head. That would be very, very bad. I've been doing this forever. A lot of mechanics can just do it by hand, but I highly recommend you getting or borrowing a torque wrench. You could probably even borrow one from O'Reilly's or AutoZone. The other thing we're going to use is a 5/8 spark plug wrench. Then if you don't know about these, what's nice is they have a piece of foam in there. So when you go to grab this spark plug down in the cylinder head, it actually holds onto it so it doesn't fall out and you can pull it out. That's the difference. Otherwise, it's just a deep socket 5/8. But what's nice is that they grab the spark plug. And of course a number 10, because everything on Toyotas and Hondas are number 10. So we've got us a number 10. We're gonna use that to take off the shroud, and then we're gonna take off some of this assembly to get to some of ours, the air intake, and then the rest should be pretty easy. And the main ingredient to any good morning working on a car, coffee. Okay, took the main shroud and the battery assembly shroud out of here. So there they are, right? So there's one for each cylinder. There's the top of the new one, right? There they are. So when you know what you're looking for, they're very obvious, right? So if you want to change your spark plugs, this is what you're looking for. And they look about the same on pretty much any modern engine. So you're looking for these coil packs, right? Whether you've got a 4-cylinder, you're going to find them across the top. They look like that on my other car. And they look like that on pretty much any modern car. So it's really straightforward. Number 10 comes out, don't lose that bolt. Then you've got to undo this clip. That's probably the most challenging part of this without breaking it, which you can do. Just squeeze it and gently pull and just work on it. Take your time. And then it'll just literally pull out, and that's what we're going to see. And then down below that will be where the spark plug is. So we've got it easy on the driver bank, no problem. We don't have to do anything. On the passenger bank, you can get to number 8 and number 6 here in the back. If you kind of work your way through there, which is what I had to do when I was on my trip. You can kind of see they're down in there. There's the new one. That one's also new. but I'm gonna go ahead. These were generic ones from O'Reilly's. They got me out of a jam, but I'm gonna go ahead and replace them all with good Hella brand. But to get to these front two here, we're gonna take this air assembly off. So let's do that now. All right, so to do that, we're gonna undo this clamp. We're gonna take off our vacuum hoses. We're gonna undo this other clamp, and there's another vacuum hose down here. And this assembly should just come right out. Oh, and one right back here. All right, so if you've never taken off these kind of hoses before, and this is new for you, a little tip and trick to taking these off. It's not as easy to do one-handed. There you go. Once you get this clamp off, twist it sideways, get it free, then try to pull it off. Don't try to just pull it straight. Get it twisting and free, and then you can work it off, and you'll be able to get it off a lot easier, especially if you're not filming. Okay, we're gonna go around and do that for all these. If you feel like buying a new tool, these are fantastic. They're made for grabbing hoses, doing exactly what we talked about, but in a little more grippy and remote way. There we go. We got 1, 2, 3, plus the 2 in and outs. Out it comes. And now we have easy access to the other side. There we go. By the way, if you're in here, some of these hoses don't start to crumble. You may notice this is not a stock hose. This is just PCV valve or fuel hose from O'Reilly's. I replaced my original hose that had cracked out on this side. You can always replace these. It doesn't have to be the exact part. What does matter is that that it's proper rigid hose, cut to the right length, and that keeps your vacuum. If you don't have good vacuum, your car's gonna run like crap. Also, super important tip, do these one at a time. Don't pull them all out and come back. Do one at a time, put it back, then work your way to the next one, okay? One at a time, one at a time, one at a time. All right, so I just finished using a number 10 to loosen this up. Then I undid it by hand, and I'm gonna take it out by hand, being very careful not to lose this screw. Do not lose that screw. Okay, and then after that, just give it a little wiggle, and it'll just pull right out. Okay, there's our old coil pack, easy as that. Down at the bottom of that hole is our spark plug. So if you don't want to replace the spark plug, now you can put the new one back in, put it back together. Pretty easy. But now we're going to do the spark plug, because since I'm here, and especially bad packs can sometimes damage spark plugs, and spark plugs are pretty inexpensive, I'm going to go ahead and put in new Denso spark plugs. Okay, so I actually had to put 2 extensions in there, but I did them one at a time. That way I could kind of fit it around here. And now that I've got it all the way in there and I've got it seated on the spark plug, you can feel it engage. Now I'm going to take it off with a regular socket. Take your time, don't break them. These aren't terribly old. If you have original spark plugs, they may be a little more rusted in there and they may be a little tougher to get out. Just take your time, apply even pressure to get them to come out. Once I feel this come loose completely, then we'll just take it out. And that special spark plug socket will allow us to just remove it directly. These have long threads, so they've got quite a bit of thread to come out. I think I've got it. See, so now I'm going to disconnect this socket in my hand so I can keep coming. And there's our old spark plug. All right. Now we'll say that's in great shape. No fouling by oil. It looks good, but we're already here. I think this cost me less than 10 bucks in spark plugs, so we're already here. Let's just do it. Okay, we got our new Denso spark plug, right? This is a platinum. I don't plan, you can get an iridium if you want, whatever. Platinum's plenty good, still lasts a long time. Especially with iridium and platinum, these are already pre-gapped. In the old days, we would gap these ourselves, but we don't do that anymore. It would actually mess up this tang. So they come pre-gapped. So you don't have to worry about that. You can just put it right in the car. Okay, so I have it reinserted in my spark plug wrench, and that's what we're going to use to put it back down gently in the hole. We're going to want to try to hit it nice and center. We're going to back it off a couple of threads the wrong way, and that's going to help make sure that our thread base is seated and mated against the bottom, and then we'll screw it in. It's very important that we do not cross thread these. You will jack up your engine, right, permanently. So, well, not permanently, but you'll be done for the day. So we want to make sure that we get these threads in there nice and clean, and we're going to put it in there hand tight. You should be able to screw it in probably 5 to 10 turns at least by hand, even if it's a little difficult. If you've got it cross-threaded, it won't go more than a turn or two, and it'll jam. If it jams, you need to back it out. Make sure you got it just right before you do any damage, okay? Do it by hand. Once we've got it a number of turns in, then you can finish it off with a wrench. One more point. See this little ring right here? This is a crush washer. It's designed to crush down and create a really good seal against the head so that we don't get any blow-by on here. You're going to feel that as we tighten it down. This is going to crush, and then we're going to hit a nice tight torque spec as this crushes down, okay? So expect to feel that. That's what that's for. Make sure you don't take this off. This belongs on there. Okay, so I've got it inserted down there. I'm going to go backwards, okay? Make sure I got it in there nice and solid. I can feel the threads kind of pop as they go over their mating. Now I'm going to come back and start putting it in, right? Nice and gentle, trying to keep it centered as I screw it in. That'll make it go in nice and easy. You see I'm turning it quite a number of turns by hand. This is what it should go like for you. If you've got it cross-threaded, it won't do this, okay? This is how you make sure you've got it right. Now it's getting tight on me. That's good, right? So now it's ready to torque down. Time to use this guy. So the spec for spark plugs is 13 foot-pounds or 17 Newton meters. Funny enough, the last time I used my torque wrench, it's still set to 13 foot-pounds. So I know what I used this for last. If you don't know how to use one of these wrenches, loosen this little lock nut on the bottom, and then you twist this guy, and you'll see that it's got foot-pounds, right? And if you've got a small one, you may have inch-pounds. And at the 0 is what these big marks are, or at the 5. And then you've got these increments that you can go past that by a little bit. Once you get to that, tighten it down. And then as you're tightening it, you'll hear it click. And that's all you get. You get a click and you're done, right? So 13 foot-pounds, which is not a lot, right? We're not crushing this thing down. Let's see if I can video this and do it at the same time. So tightening it up, right? Now I'm gonna have to put this down because to do it, you really need to hold this right here. So let me see if I can get my tripod. Okay, hopefully we can get this. So I got my hand kind of bracing it right down at the bottom, and then I'm just gonna work it slowly and gently until I hear a click. As I go, I'm crushing that crush washer. So it might go a little longer than you expect because we're crushing that down. Oh, there it went. So see if you can hear this. That's it, that's all there is. All right, so now we're gonna get our spark plug guy out of there. Hope and pray that it comes out, and it does. So now we have our new Coil, or Gila, however you want to say it. And we're going to slide that guy down in there. We're just going to gently get the seat on top of that new spark plug. We're going to get it in there. Okay. So now we got it in there. And our screw that we didn't lose, we're going to put back. And this guy doesn't take a lot, right? He's just a set screw. So we're going to give him a little tightening. But it doesn't need much, right? You don't want to crack this plastic housing. Right? We're tightening down a plastic piece, right? So just a little bit. That's good, right? Okay, and then we just connect our wire wherever we put it, out of the way. That's it. You've now replaced a coil pack and a spark plug. Pretty easy. All right, so the passenger bank is done. So one thing to note too, as I was putting these on, at least on the Hellas, they've got dielectric grease already smeared in there. That's what that green is. So when you're putting these in, before you get them in there, you're gonna wanna kind of just give them a gentle twist, get that smeared and get this boot seated on there. And just as you're doing that final push, just give a little twist and let it gently kind of seat on there. Don't just slam it in there, right? It'll go down, give it a little twist as it goes down, let it really get on there, get that smeared on there and get it seated well. It should be flat once you're kind of done with it. Sitting on its own, it shouldn't pop back out. And then you can put that bolt in. There we go. We got all 8 done. Got everything torqued down, took my time. There's no need to rush this job. Took me about an hour and a half. Might take you 2, depends on how fast you are, but there's no need to be fast. Better to be careful and thorough. Take your time, especially with spark plugs, this kind of stuff. You don't want to rush it. So there we go. Not too bad of a job. And you don't have to do them all at once. If you aren't making trips, like I'm doing a bunch of big trips and I don't want to get caught off guard. I've already had 2 fail, so I just swapped them all out. But you could onesie twosie them. And the next thing I'm going to show you is how to diagnose that on the OBD2 sensor. So before this trip I took for fun, I bought this little guy. I have the full suite of Toyota software, but this is one of these little Bluetooth dongles, and I bought it. And I'm gonna do a video on this when I need to take it back out to change a couple things. So I put in, a little dusty, but I put in an Android head unit that I really like. But because it's an Android, it can read the Bluetooth off of this, and I use the Torque app for that. So I highly recommend grabbing one of these. It's pretty easy. Goes in your OBD2 port, which is way down here, right? So it plugs in there. And it gets power from the port, and it can read. If you don't have a head unit, that's fine. You can read one of these with an Android phone. If you've got an Apple phone, you have to get the Wi-Fi version. Bluetooth won't work with Apple. But they make a Wi-Fi one that you can use, and you can use your phone to read codes off of this. It's just a simple code reader. It won't do any of the deep Toyota stuff, but it did show me, importantly, that I was getting a code, P0308 or P0308, which tells me that that was a miss on cylinder 8. P0307 would be cylinder 7, etc. And so I knew right away which cylinder was giving me the problem, and I didn't have to guess. That was super handy when I was on the road. So I was able to swing by an O'Reilly's, pick up the right part and swap it out under a tree while the kids ate lunch, get back on the road, because I also carry tools with me. So think about maybe doing a video on what tools I carry, what I carry in my car to take care of myself and others. So I'll do that in a different video. But anyways, I wanted to show you this. This really helped me out when I had an ignition coil go bad, to understand which coil it was and what was going on. I won't tell you why. You're gonna have to figure that out on your own, but I covered that at the beginning of the video. Most likely, if you have an intermittent miss that's getting worse, especially under load, it's probably a coil pack, right? And so this will help you determine which one to replace. So good luck, and see you next time.